Kia ora, good evening. Welcoming a baby into the world should be the happiest time of a woman's life, yet for some it's anything but. Postnatal depression affects 15% of New Zealand women and contributes to the #1 cause of maternal mortality, suicide. But now the government is starting to take notice, pumping millions into new treatment centres and more resources for acutely unwell mothers. This week, for the first time, experts in maternal mental health are holding a national conference to talk about how they can better help New Zealand women. Charlotte Ballas takes a look at this revolution in care with exclusive access to the new facilities and the women they're treating.
Deborah and Chris Clark have been happily married for 11 years. They live in suburban Auckland with their 3 young children. Life is good. It seems like the perfect family, at least on the outside. But behind closed doors, they've been in a desperate fight for survival. Deborah developed postnatal depression after baby Benjamin was born 8 months ago.
I just got to a point where I was thinking all these thoughts that weren't even me. Like thoughts about harming my baby that just randomly came in my head, and I just felt so disturbed by those thoughts. The thoughts of me not being here anymore, taking my life, and I didn't want it. Scared the heck out of me, and it was just getting more and more intense, and the thoughts were like really bombarding.
Why am I so emotional?
Deborah Clark is not alone.
No, it's not a good look and some self-control.
1 in every 7 New Zealand women suffer from postnatal depression, yet it is rarely talked about, a stigma silencing those who need to speak out. Looking after 6-year-old Paul and 3-year-old Hannah, she didn't want anyone to know. Inside, she was crumbling.
With my friends, I was just really, really embarrassed to go out and socialise because I thought that people would notice that I didn't have it all together. And so I tended, when I was really unwell, just to isolate myself, which is just the worst thing because it just makes you feel even more down.
Finally, the 38-year-old made a cry for help. She called maternal mental health services and went to her local branch to fill out a questionnaire gauging just how ill she was.
I just felt more down when I filled it in because I was like, oh no, I'm really bad and I want to get out of this black hole, but I don't know how to. It was horrible. Scariest time of my life.
Doctors experimented with a cocktail of depression and anti-anxiety medication. She got counselling, she tried exercise, but Deborah didn't improve. Doctors suggested she be admitted to a new unit at Starship.
So she said, there's the mums and babies unit. Would you like to go? I really, really recommend you go. And I said, how long will I be there for? And she said 2 to 3 weeks. And I was like, at first I was like, no, I'm not going to leave my husband. I'm not going to leave my kids. I can't. It was my worst fear.
But she also knew she wasn't going to get better on her own.
I was falling apart on the inside, and I just thought, if I get help getting better, I can be the mum from the inside out that I need to be.
With 15% of Kiwi women experiencing postnatal depression, the government is finally starting to act. In 2013, they allocated an extra $18.2 million into maternal mental health services in the North Island, targeting 650 mothers and babies each year and starting a revolution in care. Debbie Clark is one of 17 women who have benefited from this new unit at Starship. Part of the funding package from the government, it's the only mother-baby unit in the North Island. It opened 9 months ago and is targeted at women battling mental illness who are acutely unwell. Unlike other hospital wards, here babies stay with their mothers. Pauline Mackay is the charge nurse.
What have we got over here?
So this is one of our shared living areas for mums, babies, for dads, for extended family members.
This is one of your rooms. How many do you have?
And we have 3 bedrooms.
So the little things like having a mobile above the cot, does that just make it feel a little more like home?
Yeah, we really went for a domestic feel and not an institutional feel.
Most women stay here for 2 to 3 weeks. Having their baby with them allows them to bond and helps their recovery.
If I couldn't feed Benjamin or if I was totally in tears, they said, you know, we'll take the baby unit, and then another nurse would come and just, like, there was the odd nurse that gave me a hug. It's awesome.
Can you describe for me the type of women that come in here?
We've all had very different needs, we've all been very unique.
Different ethnicities, different
different
ages?
ethnicities, different ages, different stage of life. Some have had this their first baby, some have had 6 babies.
The most common mental illness they'll be suffering from is postnatal depression. Psychiatrist Tanya Wright is in charge of the unit.
Your thinking can become increasingly sort of sad, despondent, anxious about whether you're doing well enough, anxious about the future, anxious about how you're ever going to cope. And sometimes that can be a really negative pattern of thinking that leads to hopelessness, helplessness, and sometimes thoughts about harming yourself or even harming your baby. Having a baby is supposed to be a really joyful time in people's lives, and when that's taken away from people, I think it's quite a devastating blow.
One of their biggest challenges is keeping both mother and baby safe. This is not the first time Auckland has had a mother-baby unit. A similar facility was shut down 40 years ago after the baby of a patient was fatally injured by another patient.
If mum is really unwell, how do you ensure the baby's safety?
It's not that uncommon for mothers to have thoughts of harming their infant, and many of those thoughts are actually just worries. So, you know, what if I did that? And if a mother was talking to me about that, I would be really respectful that she'd spoken about something so incredibly difficult for her, and would explore the feeling a little bit more with her to get a better understanding of what the risks were in that.
Doctors agree the sooner women with postnatal depression ask for help, the easier it is to treat them. But asking isn't always easy.
I felt ashamed that I was going through it and worried that people might be thinking I don't love my baby, which was so not the case.
At the time, the Clarks were conscious of having to explain where Deborah was.
Deborah's just going on a holiday for
Exactly.
a while.
It's not just the mothers suffering. Postnatal depression takes a serious toll on dads too. While Deborah was in the mother-baby unit with Benjamin, Chris was looking after their other children, working a full-time job, and visiting his wife and newborn as often as he could.
You're there to support the person, you're there to encourage them through. And so I guess in some ways that's what I saw my role as, was to be there in some ways as a voice of reason when Deborah was struggling with kind of the irrational thoughts, going through the black hole, encouraging that there will be a time when you come through it.
And I didn't believe him. But I wanted to. So wanted to.
In general, men are incredibly worried, and I'm not sure if it's the right thing to say, but I think they feel quite powerless to help their partners, and I think that's a horrible place for them to be. In fact, we know it puts fathers at risk of developing depression as well.
The staff are working hard to break down barriers and reposition treatment of mental illness.
I think this reduces stigma for mental illness in a general sense, because I think people have some very old-fashioned notions of what a psychiatric institution will look like, and this isn't like that.
We got to paint our nails one night because one of the nurses just bought some nail polish, and we just all had a chat and painted our nails. And it was a safe place to be if they needed to tweak your meds, you know, that there was no feeling or sense of shame.
Before this unit was open, Auckland mothers who were severely unwell could only be admitted to an adult inpatient unit.
What were the limitations with that?
So traditionally a lot of women have been separated from their babies and have had to go into an adult mental health unit, which can be quite a intimidating and fretful experience. They've just had a baby, they're really scared when they're separated around, am I going to get the care of my baby back?
Has this unit been effective so far?
Certainly it's quite powerful, even just people coming into hospital and getting all the support that is available with the wraparound care of having a multidisciplinary team, nursing staff, medical staff, and lots of people who can actually take some of the pressures away and give them a little bit of time to recover and step back to doing what they want to be doing.
Where do you think you'd be today if it hadn't been for the mother-baby unit?
I think I would have just been totally burnt out, and my kids would have seen me fall apart completely, which I didn't want them to see.
That was the most important part.
And there I could be held in a secure place without you know, making the kids feel upset or uncomfortable, you know. I could be the mum that I needed to be.
After the break, where the rest of the funding has gone and a woman who's been through postnatal depression and come out the other side fighting.
We've got to be talking about it. The stigma thing's got to go. Bye-bye. Yeah.
The Starship Mother-Baby Unit was not built in isolation. The northern region has used the government funding to create a variety of options, allowing women to tailor their treatment. For those not so severe, a respite care facility was expanded in Counties Manukau, with plans drawn up for another in Auckland. A home-like environment, women can bring their babies in and get 24-hour care. It was opened in December with Jibby Isaac, a new mum herself, in charge.
How has this new funding helped?
We have this amazing 4-bedroom house now, and with the new funding we've got more facilities, more place for the mums to sit and relax. This is one of the bedrooms. It's like one of the best gifts that they receive when they come over here.
And an ensuite bathroom in every...
And an ensuite bathroom in every room. That's amazing how things change for the mum when they come here and they are not aware of, oh, I should just look into his eyes. I should just talk to him. Maybe I should sing to him. And how the baby responds to the mum is amazing.
Because attachment is so important.
Yes.
For the mother's mental health as well.
Yes, yes.
Laura Young and 8-month-old Madison were two of the first to stay in the new unit. Laura developed postnatal depression at the end of last year.
My husband was reaching out for help. He didn't know where to go to. He just felt like the family was sinking.
The first-time mum found it helpful being around other women on the same journey.
I didn't know that this place even existed, and I think it's about time there is a place like this offered for mothers with babies, rather than a hospital bed, or rather just sitting at home and trying to battle through it on your own.
This funding has also allowed the team to visit their former patients at home, sometimes daily, which wasn't always an option. Support worker Melanie Gray helps patients transition back to normal life.
We would have discharged the client as she left here and said goodbye and possibly, not had any more contact again.
And it was a cross your fingers situation that they'd be okay.
Yes, and often they came back.
And yet, women all across New Zealand are battling this crippling illness without such support. Auckland is the only region that can offer such an array of services. Christchurch does have a mother-baby unit, although it services the entire South Island. The Starship unit is solely for Auckland mothers, which means the rest of the North Island is going without. Its future is also uncertain, with funding only guaranteed for 4 years.
Do you believe facilities like this should be available to women nationwide?
Absolutely. There's a gap in service right now, and I think everyone deserves equity of service, no matter what postcode you live in New Zealand.
The Ministry of Health has conceded mental health services for mothers and infants needs improving, with gaps in care across the country. Getting resources like this nationwide requires more funding, but also a willingness by women themselves to reach out for help.
It's like you're drowning. It's horrible, and you're trying your best just to stay afloat with the stress that's going on, and it just feels like you're just drowning, and then it's just lifting that hand saying, hey, I need help.
And there are plenty of people willing to help.
We need each other, that's quite appropriate.
Aww, but it is, right?
Louise Clark has set up the Clothing Collective, a second-hand clothing store. All clothes are donated, with 50% of profit going to the Mental Health Foundation. Louise wants to help fund more services for postnatal depression and is determined to spark conversation around mental illness.
It's really humbling, actually, when we get people coming in and sharing their stories on their mental health journeys, and it's just... Wow, thank you. You feel quite honoured, actually. And quite often I'll be, there'll be tears. There'll be little tears coming down the cheeks.
Today, she's shooting a clothing catalogue with friends and family donating their time.
Okay, looking good. Give me attitude. Head down a little bit. Strong eyes. I learnt that off New Zealand's Top Model.
It's a cause that's close to home because 5 years ago, Louise too was in the throes of postnatal depression.
Well, even just brushing my teeth was almost overwhelming. Mummy used to go so high in the swing that I thought I was going to flip over. Probably at my worst, you know, it was really getting through an hour was, you know, amazing.
Back when her daughter Billy was born, Auckland didn't have such a range of treatment options. She visited her GP, who put her on medication.
I wasn't completely honest the first time I went. I don't think I was even completely honest the second time I went. Because you know, it's like you've been taken over. It's just like you're not who you normally are, and you don't know this person. And, you know, there was I would be having some sort of intrusive thoughts that just really freaked me out. And I'm just like, oh my God, if I tell anyone, they're going to commit me. You know, they'll take my baby away from me.
It was the worst time of her life, and it's still raw.
Were there a lot of tears?
No, I was numb to it. I don't remember crying.
Have you cried about the experience since?
Yes.
But now she can be a voice of reason for those still in the battle.
You kind of think, God, what kind of parent am I, or what kind of woman am I? I'm supposed to be, you know, Mother Earth. I'm supposed to embrace this baby and feel great joy, and, you know, it doesn't always work like that. That's not the reality.
People watching this may say, those women just have the baby blues, they just need to harden up.
And I'd certainly say that wasn't the case. I think women are trying desperately hard to do their best for their babies. It's a time of life that women are trying harder than they ever have before.
We've got to be talking about it. The stigma thing's got to go. Bye-bye. Yeah.